Hey, hey.
Hey, what's going on, Adam? How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes. Hey, thank you for having me, man. Hope all is well in your world and with all
Yeah,
this crazy coroniness.
dude. Yeah, how are you?
And great. I'm good. I'm just riding today a little bit, so we got to a good stopping point and jumping on here, and then got a couple other little interviews to do, and then finish out riding, and so everything's great in my world, man.
Right on, man. So, our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now, and we'll talk about your new song that you just released as well.
Perfect.
Cool. So, Adam, tell me about what part of the country did you grow up in?
I'm from a little town in North Florida called Lake City, and I always like to say, like, if you blink, you miss it. And a lot of people, think of Florida as like the beaches and retirement communities. And I grew up in Florida, like right in the center of the bar of Florida, so like the countryest of the countryest area that there is. But yeah, I grew up and graduated high school there, and then I moved to Nashville in 2009 when I was 21.
Okay. Wow. Well, how did you get into music?
Man, music chose me. I didn't choose music. I literally started singing when I was like 3 years old. My mom likes to that I sing before I talk, and all my family is musically inclined. My dad plays, my grandparents, my mom, and my uncle is actually in the music industry. Also, he was the only one sort of in my family that had taken music as a profession. But man, I just knew so early on that like I wanted to be in music, and Alan Jackson was my childhood hero, like at 3 years old. And so without him, I wouldn't be in Nashville, but it was just a lifelong goal. I knew I didn't want to go to college, and I pretty much waited till I, was able to get in the bars and stuff. And I moved, to town, and, started getting my feet wet and sort of co-writing and that sort of thing. And, here we are.
Wow. Wow. Very cool. You mentioned your uncle, you said is in the music industry?
Yeah, so his name's Scotty Sanders. He is a steel guitar player, which is for a lot of people that don't know, a steel guitar is kind of like a country instrument. It was, it's been used for years, and he's played literally on every album, Taylor Swift, George Jones to Sam Hunt. Like he's just all over the map on all of the records and stuff. And so he moved to town when I think he was like 13. He was sort of a child prodigy steel guitar player. My grandparents moved with him because he was so young. And it's kind of funny that all of my dad's side of the family sort of migrated up here. My dad moved here when I was about 10 years old. And so the good thing was I had some family here that was established. So when I moved in with my dad in Goodlettsville, like 20 minutes outside of town, and I worked in construction with my dad. That's kind of what my family's background is. And so I literally, hung sheetrock and worked on roofs until I was able to get a publishing deal.
Wow. Cool, cool, cool. What was the first instrument you learned? Was it guitar?
Yeah. I toted a guitar around like when I was 4 or 5 years old. My dad bought, some little cheap plastic guitar from Walmart or something, but
Sure.
I really didn't learn how to play it until probably about 10 years old. I think he showed me 3 chords, and man, I never took any lessons. I never took any vocal lessons. It was just sit in my bedroom and just sort of self-taught. And I'm still not a very good guitar player even today, as it is, but I'm good enough to be dangerous. I write a lot and play a lot of rhythm,
Right.
And I wish I knew some other instruments, but yeah, guitar is sort of my thing.
Right on. And when did you start like kind of writing songs or putting down stuff that wasn't
Well,
covers?
the crazy thing is this is just wild how fate works. I distinctly remember when I was about 12 or so, my uncle called my dad one day, who is in, my uncle Scotty, who's in the music industry, and he asked to speak to me, and he said, "Hey man, have you ever thought about writing songs?" And I said, "No, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, all these songs that you hear on the radio and all these artists that you like, somebody had to write the songs, whether it was the artist or their songwriters." He said, "You should look into writing songs." He said, "I know that, you're wanting to move to Nashville one day, and that could be your way in the music industry one day, And so I hung up the phone the next day. My dad helped me write my first song, which was awful. And then I started writing songs in high school, about, girlfriends or, field parties or whatever, I was kind of going through. And it's so crazy that I moved to Nashville, and I looked at how to get in the music industry. I looked at 2 routes. I said, okay, well, either I can take the the voice approach and hope that Blake turns his chair around, and do
Sure.
that sort of route. Or I felt like at that point I had a knack for writing songs, and I loved it, and I felt like I was pretty decent at it. And I said, well, or I can take the backdoor approach and do the songwriter route and sort of try to write songs for other people, and then let someone say, well, this guy's writing them all, why didn't he sing them? And so that's the way that I chose. And it's so crazy that when you go backwards, when I was 12, my uncle was absolutely right. The songwriting was my way to get my foot in the door, because later I got a publishing deal. I had a couple #1s as a songwriter, and, a lot of cuts by a lot of other people, and all that really propelled my own career.
Wow. Yeah. Because once you get in those rooms and you prove yourself as a songwriter, I would think, especially in a town like Nashville, it might be a little bit easier maybe to start getting out and playing songs, because you kind of already have the validation that you're good at what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you can become a dual threat where you can write them and sing them, a lot of people can either sing them, but they can't write them, or a lot of people write them, but they can't sing them. But when you can do both, I think your stock goes up a little bit, to labels or publishers or whatever it is. And so I saw that route sort of work for guys before me, like Thomas Rhett and Cole Swindell, and so I knew that it was a doable path for me. And so, yeah, I got my publishing deal after 2 years of being in town. I signed with Big Yellow Dog Music, and I got my first cut 6 months into my deal. My first cut was by Luke Bryan on the Crash My Party album that he had. And
wow,
that was awesome to kind of come out of the gate swinging. And then from there, I was able to write for Dierks Bentley and Cole Swindell, Dustin Lynch, Tyler Farr, Chase Rice, and so on and on.
Wow.
So it was incredible.
That is nuts. Wow. Okay. I want to go back before you moved to Nashville real quick. So before you got to Nashville, and when you were in high school and stuff, were you pursuing music as an artist? Like, were you playing like open mic nights and trying to form bands? Or after that conversation with your uncle where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to try to focus on writing and then get to Nashville and try to score a publishing deal?
No, I knew that the artist route was always what I wanted. It was just deep inside of me. And so back home, I'd kind of built up this little following, in North Florida region. The kids sang all the festivals, all the talent shows and at school. And I just kind of entered all of those. And when I was in high school, I recorded my first album, of some songs that I'd written, and put together a little trio band, and, started playing, at different festivals and things. So I knew that the artist thing was what I wanted to do, but I was still writing songs on the side. I was kind of writing as a way to express my feelings, whatever. And so when I moved to town, I literally said, okay, well, how do I get from point A to point B? And knowing that being an artist is what I wanted. And I knew that my way to get there was my path through songwriting. And so it was sort of a combined approach, but knowing that the end goal was to be an artist and, to sort of use my songwriting as a way to get there.
Okay. Yeah. So you knew that you could write. You were doing that as, pursuing art, being an artist in like high school before you moved to Nashville. But you moved to Nashville, and then you said were you performing out in Nashville when you first got there? Or was it just like, okay, I need to figure out how to get in these writing rooms?
Yeah, so my approach was, well, first I had to get a job because I live with my dad. And so I moved, like I said, I moved in with him.
And then did construction, right?
Yeah, did construction. And what I would do was I would work like 2 weeks with my dad, and I'd get a couple paychecks, and I'd have, a couple $100 in my pocket. And then I would go network downtown. I'd hit all of the bars, like Winners and Losers and Tin Roof. And I just network with people, go to writers' nights, and, just try to meet as many people as I could. This was back in the MySpace days also. So I was checking out people's MySpace profiles and their songs, and I was messaging them, hey man, I think, I love your stuff, we should write, and yada, yada, yada. And it's kind of crazy because I met a guy on Facebook by the name of Josh Martin. And I messaged him and I said, man, I love your stuff. We should get together and write sometime. And so I go over to his apartment one day and we write a song, and he says, man, I've got a buddy of mine that I feel like you guys would just get along really well with. And he said, he's out selling t-shirts right now for Luke Bryan, but when he gets back in town, I want to introduce you to him and just come over and we'll watch baseball or whatever. So when this guy got back in town, I came over to Josh's house, and it happened to be Cole Swindell at the time. And so Cole and I and Josh started watching baseball. And then we started writing songs, and we literally wrote two of the songs that like changed my life. Ain't Worth the Whiskey. That was a later, #1 for Cole, and my first #1 as a songwriter, and Cole's third as an artist. And Josh was the third writer on that, and he's the one that sort of connected the dots of all of that. And so it's just crazy how it works, man. Yeah, because it's pretty wild. But I was just networking and just trying to meet as many people as possible. I played a few writers rounds, and I really tried to focus though more on the songwriting side to get that right, because I knew that was sort of the foundation of the house in a sense. If I was building this whole career, that I needed a publishing deal, I needed to have an income, and then I could start working on the artist thing. And I thought I had more of the artist stuff figured out before I actually realized that I did not at all. And so that was a huge learning curve for me when I finally started having success as a songwriter. And exactly what happened, I thought was going to happen, was everybody sort of turns and says, okay, well, this kid's singing them, he's, writing them, let's let him sing them, And so we started putting out songs, and I found out so fast that, man, I did not have a brand. I didn't have an image. I didn't have anything on the artist side developed yet. I had all the focus on the songwriting side. So I had to spend the next 3 or 4 years really, really catching up and really massaging that side of the of my profession also, even though I had the songwriter thing figured out.
But I feel like having the songwriting thing figured out is is pretty much the 80 to 90% of it, right? Because if you could have the branding and the coolest look and logos, but if you don't have a song that's worth anything,
100%, yeah,
who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I think I wouldn't have traded how I sort of approached it for anything, because it was still the right path, because I needed to figure out how to write hit songs and what worked for country radio, and knowing that if I was going to have a career that was you were able to make a living at, you sort of had to fit the radio box, and knowing what that box is. It's like baseball. If they say, hey, you've got to go to first base, second base, and third base to come home, that's the rules of the game. And so that's kind of like radio. It's like, hey, if you want to get on radio, here's the unwritten rules. You could write whatever you want, but only these kind of songs are probably going to end up on the radio. So I figured that out fast, and, use that to my advantage. But you're right, man. Like little things like on the song or on the artist side, my hair was like so long. I had this country Justin Bieber thing going on. Like when I moved to town, I literally, I'm not a big guy anyways, but when I moved to town, like I was like 125 pounds soaking wet. Like I had to get in the gym and bulk up a little bit, and just kind of grow up a little bit, and sort of, like I said, figure out what songs worked for me and what I did as an artist versus, pitching them to other people. And so all that stuff took a little time to figure out, but it's all really, really, came together over the last year or so, and it's been the perfect storm.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, to write, to just get in these rooms, and I mean, write for Luke Bryan, and you said you like Cole Swindell, like you wrote like a platinum track for him, like that's so crazy to have that like on your resume. And then what was the shift there? Like, you always said you always wanted to be an artist, like even living in, before you moved to Nashville, but was there like a moment when you're like, okay, like I obviously know what I'm doing. I've wrote X amount of like, songs that have got played by a number of cuts or whatever. Now I want to just do this on my own. Like, what was the switch? Was there like a certain song you wrote? Was there a moment?
No, I think it was more of, I knew that was the end goal, and it was sort of the natural progression of, as I started to get some heat, you start getting people in the business starting to pay attention, and I started to have managers and booking agents and, publicists starting to come out saying they wanted to work with me. And so when we started putting out music, my first single was called Nothing to Drink. Sex and the High played a pretty good bit, and I think we went to like number 5 on the chart as the first song I released, and did really well in downloads. And so I think it was just sort of the natural progression. But through those songs, I started to figure out that we were having some moderate success, but it wasn't converting into like a record deal as per se. I had a lot of meetings, and I was passed on by a lot of labels in town. And I think that if I had to be honest with myself as I look back, I had a lot of raw talent, but I didn't have, it wasn't polished enough yet for them to like jump on board. And so I kind of went back to the woodshed a little bit and just started to focus more on the artist side of things. And I was still writing songs, and I kind of at that point sort of said, hey, I'm just going to write the best song that I could write that day. And if it would work for me and what I'm building, great. If not, it can be pitched to anybody else. And that's literally what I've still been doing today. I mean, I've got a song later this year that's going to come out that Blake Shelton recorded with an old group by the name of Shenandoah in the 90s, and they did like a collaboration together. And it's just a song that worked for them. You know, it just wasn't for me. You know, but I've also got some songs that I'm, you know, saving for myself also.
Wow. That's cool. That's really cool. Like, what was the first song that you wrote and were like, okay, this is mine. I'm not going to try to pitch this.
Man, probably Nothing to Do with Drink, which was my first single. I'll never forget. I was so fired up about that song because it was the first thing that I felt like, man, like this just sounds like me. Like this is like the lyrical content. I'm all about this. And I actually remember being so fired up about it. I picked up my buddy Cole Swindell one night, and I played it for him in my truck. And he looked at me and he was like, dude, he was like, this is massive. He was like, this is you. You got to put this out. We literally listened to it like 30 times back to back. And he gave me the confidence to really, you know, like say, hey, this is what I want to sing about and stuff. And so I would say Nothing to Do but Drink.
Wow. Okay. So you did that. And then tell me, like, what about putting out your first record? Like going from the you know, songwriter aspect of it to now you're, you know, as an artist, like, were you touring? Like, tell me, like, were those all new experiences for you?
Yeah. So we pretty much, we hit the road. We were in a van and a trailer. I was able to open for Cole on his Down Home tour. That was kind of the first major tour that I went out on. I'd kind of done a lot of opening slots for random, you know, artists and, you know, all over the place. And sort of in the time where I was the driver, the tour manager, the singer, you know, like all of it, you know,
guitar
like,
tech.
Oh God, it was some long days and nights, that's for sure. And then I was able to go out on the road with Cam and opened for her. And yeah, we were just steady building things. And so what my approach was when I sort of knew that I had been passed on by labels, I was still building this organic following where I had not had any kind of like promotion or anything. We were just kind of putting out songs and they were just sort of doing their thing without any kind of like marketing budget behind them or anything. And so there come a point where this wasn't necessarily the plan. My plan was to always, you know, be on a label and try to go after radio, but just the natural progression of my career got to a spot to where this past year I was able to start turning down record deals.
Wow.
Because now I have built over almost 100 million total streams as an artist.
I'm looking at your Spotify right now, and that
and crazy. So now so it's I've kind of gotten to a spot now to where I would still sign a record deal, but I've kind of built something up enough now where I can self-fund my career. I don't have to give up percentages. Labels would take my ownership of my masters probably, and so I've kind of gotten to a spot where I'm self-funding everything, and I'm able to survive and have the same amount of streams as, you know, most new acts coming out on artists. And so
more than
like
most.
I said, yeah, you know, I this was not a path that was planned, but it, you know, it ended up being my route. And so, man, I'm very thankful for where I'm at. There was a lot of days where, you know, it was like, man, you know, I can't believe, you know, here I've got 2 number ones and, you know, all these artists that's cut my songs, and I've got all these streams and songs that were played on Sirius XM the Highway, and I can't get a record label to, you know, to sign me for anything. Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And I just think, man, like fate, you know, just I was sort of being protected, because you got to think what would have happened if I'd have got a deal, got shit and I was able to put out music, and then my career wouldn't even be progressed to where it's at now.
Right.
Know? So it's been a fun ride. You know, 11 years later, and now we're kind of full head of steam. We just put out a song this past week called Drink, Drink, Drunk. That's kind of a fun little thing. And like, I just looked the other day, and like in a matter of a week, I mean, we've got like 200,000 streams on it in a week, you know, so it's been crazy.
That's awesome. I mean, now you're kind of in the position. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. That's an Australian artist. Similar situation to you is where I mean, you have all these streams, you have obviously people that love your songs, whereas now you kind of get to pick, if you looked at it, like say it was the 90s where everybody needed the record label, like everyone was sending the press kits and like, please sign my band. Like then, the labels were kind of, finding new talent and building that. But nowadays it's like, I feel like the labels are just sitting back and looking to see who has, you have to have something already. I feel like, now it's so you could look at, okay, they can go, oh, Adam Sanders, let me see what this guy's about. Oh, damn, he's got 17 million streams on one song. Like, okay, we should probably talk to this guy.
Yeah.
It's all tangible now, as where you're kind of in a position where you can sit back and say, what can you do for me? Like, I'm already here. How are you going to get me even higher up? Like,
it's definitely the push and pull game at this point, because technology has allowed music to be consumed. I've said it's like the Wild Wild West. Everybody's got a gun now, and everybody can shoot to kill. So you got to think there's TikTok people that are coming out with millions of views, and these people are getting famous off of TikTok or the streaming world or Instagram or whatever. I mean, there's so many different avenues now. So there's not just one way anymore like there used to be, like you're saying. And so man, I think it's amazing, because I think what it does is it lets the world and the fans dictate. It's like going into Costco now and the world is your oyster, because there's so much music. Before, I think music was like a vending machine. Like you had A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, B, like you were limited on what you were given, and you looked at the vending machine and said, well, I guess I'll have that because that's what my choices are. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go into Sam's, you've got a whole, store full of stuff. And I think that just gives people the ability to pick and choose what they really want to listen to. And so I think for guys like me, I'm just very blessed, because without all of those streams from fans saying, hey, I like this stuff, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So I have now kind of turned it over to them and let them sort of A&R what I put out next. I kind of tease stuff on my socials, and because I'm writing all the time. Like I write like 70 songs a year. And so if I get, something I'm excited about for me, I'll just like post about it on my socials. And if I get a lot of fans that are like, hey man, I love this and I feel like it fits my brand, that's what we put out.
That's awesome. I want to talk to you about this new song, Drink, Drank, Drunk. I love the video, or you're like using the guitar as like an oar.
Yeah.
It just looks like a big party on the boat. Tell me about this song.
Man, so I'm calling this the sobriety test of songs, because it's such a riddle. I had this title that I'd written down in my phone, Drink, Drank, Drunk. And I was like, I have no idea what this is, but it just, it looks cool together. And for months, man, I just had it on my phone, and, I didn't know what it meant. And one morning, so much of what I do, like songwriting and stuff, it's just, man, people ask me all the time, how do you write songs? How do you do this? I can tell you, like, okay, you write a verse and a chorus and that sort of thing. But it's just a God-given thing, man. I'm just very blessed to I don't even know when I'm writing it. It just comes to me. And so one morning I was making breakfast, and I just was walking around my house, and I said, I had a drink that I drank when I drank that drink I drank made me drunk. And I was like, what is that? So I literally just
Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, it's literally green eggs and I am, Sam I am. Like it was that sort of thing. So I just said that in my phone. And so a couple months later, I'm in these co-writes, and usually when we had kind of went through all of our good ideas, I would throw this out as a last resort of like, hey man, like what if we just do something crazy and off the wall? And, I'd say that, and they were like, nobody really bid on it. And finally one day, man, like I was in a room, and same thing. We kind of went through our good ideas. We were there to write a particular title that us 3 writers or 4 writers that day really liked. And we kind of thought about, hey, let's go and write this. And we get 2 hours in, and we're just, not feeling what we thought we were going to write. Finally, I was like, man, I got this thing. I had a drink, and I just kind of sang it. And then my buddy Jordan Rager, like literally just started writing the verse to it. And we wrote it in 45 minutes. Which was crazy. And it just has such a throwback, like 90s country feel to it. I grew up on the 90s, like that's my thing. And so when I decided to release it, the video, I called my buddy Dustin Lynch because he got a brand new Centurion boat sent to him like 2 weeks before. And I called him, and we had been out the weekend before surfing on it and hanging out on the lake. And I said, hey, dude, I got a favor to ask. Can I borrow your boat for a video? And he was like, well, heck yeah, cuz. He said, well, I need some pictures of the boat anyways to send back to Centurion. So come on, like, use it. So he let me use his boat, and we got rained out. We're doing the surfing stuff, and then we had to go back the following Monday, Labor Day, and shoot the rest of the video with all those, like, the people around and stuff. And so, man, we just decided to turn it into a party. And I think what I hope that fans take away from the song is there's so much heaviness right now in our world, and especially our country. And it's like, man, like, there's so much negativity. I want this to be a song that people can smile and have fun to. And I want to create this song as like the new TikTok challenge of country songs of like, hey, you hear it one time, and can you sing it? And then can you sing it drunk? And then can you, like, sort of thing. And my thought is, well, if you can sing it, keep drinking till you can't. Like, sort of thing. It's the sobriety test of songs. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it, man. It's been a blast, and we're gonna have some challenges here pretty soon where we're gonna ask fans to sing it and make a video of all of them singing it, and some bloopers, and so we're just gonna have fun with it.
That's really cool. And is this gonna be part of like a full-length record, or do you know yet?
Maybe so. So we're working. I've just put out singles, and a couple years ago I put out my debut EP, but I haven't put out any kind of like project yet. And everybody asks me all the time, "Hey, when are you putting out a record?" Blah blah blah. And I think we are working on something that is going to be like a full album, but maybe not in a standard studio setting. And so I can't give away all the details yet, but we're working on something. I think Drink Drunk would be a part of that, and a lot of, some other stuff. And so we're excited about what we've got, coming. And that should be probably around the first of next year. In the meantime, we might put out another song or two before we do a full record of how we're thinking about doing it. But it's I'm looking forward to getting back on the road too, because the next year is going to be a lot of fun for us.
Were you affected by COVID at all? Were you on the road or anything when coronavirus hit?
I wasn't directly affected, other than the fact that we had planned to do a lot of festival dates this summer, like fairs and festivals, and then we were going to do my first headlining tour this fall, and all of that got wiped out, and so we'll roll it over to next year. But something I was really looking forward to. I was kind of making the jump from being the opener to the main act, and we were going to do a lot of club dates, and so that was a bummer. But man, it's all in due time. Next year I think fans will even want to come to shows even more.
Oh, sure. Definitely. Everyone's going to be itching. I mean, I'm sure people are already like, get me out of here. But
for sure. Yeah.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. I do have one more question for you. I want to know, do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Be dead sure that this is what you want to do, because I think you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the drive behind it, I don't think your career is going to last very long. I think hard work goes a very, very long way. I've always sort of said, like, look, I'm not the best singer. I'm not the best looking. I'm not the best guitar player, the best writer, but my work ethic is something that I really take pride in, and I'm a very driven person. And so I think hard work and keeping your head down, stay in your lane, and not this business tends to go in trends of where certain new styles and new things work. And I think that if you stay what is in your gut and what you really want to do, if the business is like a river, stay in the middle of the stream and it'll hit your lane when it's time. And I think right now with what I do naturally is more of a twangy 90s kind of thing. That's become the new thing. And so now I feel like my career is going to the next level. It just took a little bit to get, in that, spot. So I would say hard work and stay focused on what you want to do.